Thanks for clicking on Conversations with Crosswinds Counseling. I'm Curtis Smith, and I invite you to subscribe to our podcast and to like and share it as well. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Hi, everyone, and welcome to Conversations with Crosswinds Counseling. I'm Curtis Smith, your host for this podcast, and joining me today is Grant Anderson. He is the clinical director for Crosswinds Counseling. Grant, thanks for being with us today.
Thanks for having me.
Going to talk about a topic that is, I was going to say near and dear to everyone's heart, and that there's probably a love-hate relationship with this topic, and that is technology. It's something that we all use constantly, more and more over the last few years. It's really become so prevalent in our society. From a counseling perspective, tell me what you're seeing when you look across the landscape of people's lives and see the impact that technology has on people.
Yeah. So not only has it changed how we communicate with friends and family, but it's also changed how we're learning, and it's changed our access to information. I mean, just even in the past decade or so, we're seeing tons and tons of information coming out of not just the impacts that technology has on our day-to-day, but how it's impacting our mental health, starting from young, babies and toddlers all the way up to 18.
Yeah, so I'm in that phase of life where my friends are becoming grandparents. I'm suddenly around 2- and 3-year-olds again, and they're able to function with technology. Mm-hmm. Like, you see these kids touch an iPad and swipe on things and grab a phone, and just instinctively they seem to know what to do. The impact on kids is so much more than I even thought. It's so much younger than I even thought. I assume you're seeing that with families that you're counseling.
Absolutely. And so the toddler's ability to pick up new information and learn those fine motor skills has just drastically changed with technology, right? So you have those babies who are all of a sudden able to know to swipe on a screen or to swipe,
right.
And it's something that we never dealt with in previous generations. And so it's brand new to kind of see how much technology is being used. Some of the reports have shown a huge increase from anywhere from an hour and a half back, 10, 15 years ago to even almost 2 hours or 2.5 hours. These are just for toddlers, how much time they spend on technology.
That's incredible. So, Grant, it's not going away. We know that, right?
Yeah.
Like, if anything continues to change, it's probably more and more technology, more technology that's adept to fitting our lives, more people letting their toddlers and young kids use technology. So with that in mind, with that as the framework, that technology isn't going anywhere, it's only going to get more and more prevalent, how do you work through those issues with parents, with kids, with families that you're working with?
Great question. And there's a couple of different things that are really important to consider. One, the age of your child, right? So technology, even as a learning device, has not shown to be effective for anyone under really 2 years old.
Wow.
And so it's easy, even when they're that young, just to kind of give them a tablet or something to kind of distract them. And it almost becomes a parenting technique that's not necessarily healthy in parenting in itself. But as they get older, getting to expose them, because they're going to be exposed naturally to technology, making sure that you're not just monitoring them, but you're also mentoring them as they look at technology. So the idea there is that you're co-viewing what they're looking at. You're being aware of what social media platforms they're looking at, and what age appropriate for that will change a little bit based on what parents feel. Research shows right now, though, that 13 to 18-year-olds are by far the most used with technology.
Sure.
They end up using about 7 hours a day.
Oh, my goodness.
And that is not including educational needs. So just having their phone out or being on a tablet or watching television or playing video games, it's an enormous number, and it's continuing to grow.
Right.
And so with that whole mental health piece that has become a huge part of it is the social acceptance that comes from social media. So we Instagram and we tweet, and we're really looking for feedback from the social world. We want people to like our stuff or to respond or comment on something. And it's very hard for a teenager, especially, to not get that acceptance when they put themselves out there. And so the mental health is being hugely impacted just by the social media of technology itself.
Yeah, it's such an interesting thing because social media is meant to connect us all. And in a way it does, but it seems like, and I'm certainly no counselor, it seems like it leads to isolation and loneliness. Are you seeing that in that teenage population especially?
We absolutely are seeing it. We're seeing not just an isolation, but a desire or a need to want to connect more and more. And they're going online technology to try to make that connection versus trying to look across, and talk to a friend or go to school. They're going to these new platforms that are constantly being, newer every year. And it's not necessarily giving them the feedback or the support that they're looking for.
So as a non-counselor, I would maybe say to a teenager, hey, put that down, go outside, talk to a human. Yeah. That might not be soft enough. So from a counseling perspective, what advice would you have for those teenagers in that spot who are looking for the connection, who want people, or for their parents who are trying to help them navigate that season of life? What would you say to them?
Well, for parents, I would let them know, like, technology is not inherently just evil, right? So it's not just taking away your phone doesn't solve the problems often. There's still going to be problems in the families, but there were problems there before. But what research is showing us that it's not just a technology thing. It's getting enough sleep, 10 hours of sleep, getting a healthy diet, and you're making sure you're getting physical activity are all big pieces of the teenagers who are showing on top of their cognitive development, and having less than, I think, 2 hours of technology every day is kind of what's adequate. When it comes to the social media, there's, I believe it's the World Health Organization has put out media plans that families can come together, kind of figure out, okay, when do we want to watch or have screen times? What's appropriate? How are we going to monitor it? How are we going to work through these things so that everyone is part of the plan and not just parents dictating necessarily, especially at that teenage years when it's really important for teenagers to be a part of what's going on versus being directed of what's going to happen to them.
With a lot of your clients, is this a core issue, or is this more often than not on the periphery? It's something that's making the core issue worse, or is this oftentimes the core issue that a child, a teenager, or a family is going through?
It has before been a core issue. It's not necessarily very common that a family will come in with the core issue of how do we help limit or work with technology in the family. Oftentimes we'll see issues with school or issues with anxiety or issues with depression, and it'll come out that some really unhealthy coping skills are going on with technology that is being utilized by the teenager, which is just to kind of point to the parenting piece in that if a parent comes home and first thing they do is jump on their computer or turn on the TV or jump on their phone, it's a modeling thing for the teenager of this is what mom or dad does. It's very difficult for that teenager to then to say, well, I can't get on technology because it's one rule for mom and dad, different rule for teenagers. So kind of making sure you're having that conversation if that's kind of what's going on in the family too.
But oftentimes it is more of a symptom maybe rather than the core problem.
Yeah, it can be a piece of it for sure. Yeah.
Interesting. Grant, crosswindscounseling.org is the spot to go. You are not only clinical director, but you do counseling. So if you are interested in getting any counseling with anybody at Crosswinds Counselor, Grant is one of the many fine counselors we have on staff here, and you can get plugged in. Go to crosswindscounseling.org to start your journey to find a counselor and make an appointment. Grant, thanks so much for being here today and talking about the impact of technology in our world.
Thank you, Chris. Appreciate it.
Yep. We'll see you next time on Conversations with Crosswinds Counseling. Thanks for watching Conversations with Crosswinds Counseling today. I hope it was helpful for you. Don't forget to subscribe so that you don't miss an episode. Like and share it as well. We appreciate that and hope you have a great day.